Welcome to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast. In this episode, Cendrine Sauvenier will be talking to us. Cendrine Sauvenier is a trance-channel to the Arcturians Council, a multidimensional psychic and an ascension and mission mentor. Cendrine's spiritual senses have been open since early childhood, but the road to embrace them led through many challenges. Today, with her soul mission fully activated, she shares a body of quantum channeled and co-created work with her galactic team. In this conversation, Cendrine offers a glimpse into these galactic teachings aimed to completely regrid the Earth and establish the templates of the neo-humans, anchoring a new wave of human evolution in love, freedom, abundance, and connection. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce Cendrine.
Welcome to the Architects of Destiny podcast, and today we've got a special guest all the way from New Zealand. It's Cendrine Sauvenier, who is a trance-channel, spiritual teacher, mentor, co-creating with many galactic races, whose mission is to teach us about sovereignty and co-creating with Source so we can have a life of freedom and embody some of the beautiful technologies that these advanced races of beings have available. So welcome to the show Cendrine.
Thank you so much, Riya. I'm so happy and grateful to be here with you. It's very exciting. Thank you.
I would like to kickstart by asking you, how was your journey to meeting various galactic beings? Because I'm aware that just as myself, the co-host of the show, Aeron, you co-create with multiple galactic races. So it's not just one, but many. So who was the first race of beings that you came across? How did that happen? Tell us a little bit about, how you got to meet beings of light.
Yes, I love this, Riya. Thank you so much. So it's interesting because I've been clairvoyant and psychic since I was very little. So I was born like that, and I had many encounters with different beings. But because I was not educated on the subject, I didn't know the terminology, so I didn't know how to qualify them. So I would just call them my friends in spirit or like the angels, even though they felt that had many different appearances. I never thought about asking more than that, which is very interesting. So I will not tell my whole life story about it, but basically, when I started hearing more and more about star races, it came mostly across Palladians, and I never really felt to started that connected with them. So I thought, that's super cool, that's awesome, but not that much connected. Then when I started hearing about Arcturians, everything changed very quickly. So I started receiving many upgrades. It was very clear that they were in my field, and also my closest friend, I would say, that had been there for a very long time, all of a sudden she kind of shifted into her Arcturian avatar self, and so far she had shown herself in my childhood more as like a bit like a Virgin Mary, not Virgin Mary, but more in this appearance, because I was familiar with these archetypes of Divine Mother. So it made me feel very comfortable. And then as I went through many years of discovering more of my gift and also diving more into past life, she would show herself more like a wise witch of the light, which was yet a different appearance, but I knew it was the same. So I was already aware that she was a shapeshifter. So when I became, aware of Arcturian frequency and star race, all of a sudden she was an Arcturian. And it was like, are you going to keep on shifting like this for a long time? She was like, no, actually, like this is my preferred chosen appearance. But if I'd shown myself like this, it would have been much harder for you to integrate the fact that I'm here into your heart and to be really at peace with it. So for me, it really shows that we only see, feel, and hear what we are ready to receive, and that there are many people out there, because a lot of people come to me like that, and many of my students come to me like that. They want really to communicate with the races and earth elementals and ascended masters, but they feel that all of these blocks, and I always say to them, they are present already, so don't push it too much, because they know exactly, like there is a perfect organization principle going on right now that's allowing you to open up your intuition and your psychic abilities to the level that you can take. So it's always really a reminder of being happy with the information that we receive. And because sometimes the information is so mind-blowing, so advanced, so high frequency that we need a long time to adjust. So after that, it took me a long time to adjust, but actually not that long, because it was just a couple of months until I started trance-channeling them, actually, which was an interesting process. From meeting them, bam, I went on trance-channeling them. So it's like, okay, that's happening.
Wow, what a story. Well, a question that often springs up, and probably a lot of listeners who may want this connection, asking, like, how do I do it? Do I need to wait for them to contact me first? I mean, from my experience, they came to me again before I knew who they were. Exactly like with you, an Arcturian female being came to wake me up when I was ready. So I was already, deep in meditation, transformation, all this kind of law of attraction. So I was ready for that. But and then one day in a lucid dream, she just came and it was the time. And from then, everything accelerates super quickly. So it's almost like this quantum learning curve. So it seems like it was same for you, where it just kind of from slow, all of a sudden it accelerated. You started trance-channeling. So how was that? Was it scary? Did it happen spontaneously, or were you prepared for that? How did that happen?
It was a bit destabilizing, because I was just working as a psychic healer. So I was just sitting next to my client. And then I started doing more of this breath that I started practicing, like ecstatic breath. And that ecstatic breath was putting me in a trance state very quickly. And all of a sudden, I felt like doing that. So I started doing that. And next thing I knew, I was kind of speaking very, very differently, and also doing a lot of signs with my hands and speaking light language. And most of all, I was sweating like a beast. And that was so insane. I was just trying to not fall off my stool, because I was sitting on a stool. And my client next to me, I could feel that she was like, what's going on? But it was her first time. So she didn't really know what to expect. And I was like, okay, so when did that happen? My mind was like, okay, so it's happening. That's trance-channeling. It's fine. Oh my God, am I going to faint? I think I'm going to faint. So I was having this kind of like dual experience of my mind speaking in the background, but I was just channeling and sharing and speaking like language and doing all of these things. So I was having this like literally two minds in myself, and I was really like my human mind, my ego was zoomed back. And I quickly decided, like, I'm not going to control it. But it was funny to observe, oh my God, what the fuck's going on? I'm not sure. What should I be doing? Should I continue doing this? And I was like, yes. And I just kept on breathing, more calmly this time. And by the end of the session, my client opened her eyes, and it was like, what was that? Actually, a strange channeling session. And yes, it's first time it happened. And after that, basically it happened very quickly, because from that place, 3 weeks later, I was booked to go to a festival and, have a stall there and simply do readings, right? The next thing I knew, I changed all my posters, all my flyers. I was like, I'm just going to do trance-channeling sessions for the entire weekend. And that's what I did. I sold out. I did 13 trance-channeling sessions in 2 days. I was fried. But it was really powerful, because I had lost my voice at the end, but that was it. I had upgraded so much during 13. I loved it, the 13 sessions, that I knew forever that my life was completely different. And that was a turning point, pivotal point in my life. And I was like, that's what I want to be doing. One of the things I want to be doing, everything will be different from now on. And everything was. After that, I started being trained, very closely by the Arcturians, the Masters, and many other star races that started coming very, very clearly in my field. So that was absolutely, absolutely amazing. Yes.
Wow. So one of the things that happened to us is when Arcturians first came and trained us, at some point they said to us clearly, go meet other races. So was this the case with you as well, where the Arcturians said, hey, go meet others? Because that's what happened to us. They said, look, you're going to have a more rounded experience if you go meet the Pleiadians, meet the Sirians, meet the Lyrans. And then we went on around the galaxy, meeting different races. Who is next after the Arcturians? Did the other races just start coming to you, or how did that happen?
Yeah, like for me, I had been sitting with my council for a long time already in my meditation and prayer. So I already knew I was part of a round table. It's just that now, from this kind of it was, I knew that they were there, but there was still not a great precision around information of who they were. And then from them, like, bam, I could see Palladian, Andromedan, Syrian, Blue Avian, very clearly ascended masters and dragons and animal spirit. And so I was like, okay, so that's great. So they had already been there. But then because I could see them, I started reading online, about them a lot. And then I also went into quantum journey, exactly like so. Okay, let's go to Palladians, let's go to Andromeda. And they are just like, I received lots of initiations. They told me about why I was connecting with them, why I have such a close, it's because all of these races that I co-create with, they are family. So they told me, like, I've learned about, my soul's journey through time and space reality. So I had so much precision about all these snippets that I had received through all my life. The whole puzzle started coming together. And it's just beautiful. And it keeps on coming. The puzzle never ends. It's always more pieces.
It's an amazing journey, because certain things in your life that feel like, oh, that's just my personality. And then you learn, okay, that personality is actually because in, I don't know, 5 lifetimes ago in linear time on Sirius, I used to be, well, I was a scientist actually, but, or like so many times ago in Lyra, I was a healer, and this is what I'm doing here. So it all starts making sense, and certain personality traits make sense. And it's almost like the sense of knowing that you've always had, but it's just like confirmation. So what a journey.
Yes, that's amazing, Riya. And for me, I started receiving a body of work that teaches about the architecture of life and architecture of the universe. So I can see within the Oversoul network, within my Oversoul network, where the Oversoul network is currently projecting a certain realities, but also where it does not any longer, but where it has had at some point. So it still gathered the information. So it's interesting to observe vibrationally the connection I have with Tomsa races, where I became ascended masters on Arcturus and on Sirius, but not on Palladius. And I'm doing that process on Andromeda right now through my Oversoul network, and also on Earth. So it's like I can see it's a bit like creating, I guess, a perfume. I'm not very much fond of a perfume, like a tea, like this much herb or that much herb would give you different essence or different flavor. So I can see, like, all of these different flavors. And the point that I'm still working on, for example, in the Palladians, it's very interesting because it's the star races among the council that I felt the least connected with. But yet, in terms of love, it's equally, I love them equally. But it's just because I'm working also in this life on integrating teachings that I are learning on, that I'm learning on it to integrate there. So it's kind of both learning. So that's projection over there is passing on information to me that is valuable here, and I do the same towards her, because it's like in this current reality over there, it's still quite new for my Oversoul network to be projecting, over and over again. So it's so interesting to observe, like, compared to Arcturus, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, you've been there, done that, mastered all of this. And so now it's about just this is like why the Oversoul network is actually projecting on Earth through Arcturian frequency, which is by my side all the time. So the Arcturian trance-channel is actually me. So it's not on Arcturus, but it's on Earth projecting here, just through different frequency spectrum. So it's like, what? Okay, so how do I teach this to people without frying their brains? It's just like, it's awesome. Absolutely love it. So it's like all of these new levels of precision that are coming, like veils starting to be organized and removed. So like this coherence in the field unfolding from having this profound connection with these star races.
What you're saying makes total sense to me, because it's like, it's like almost like a chess or puzzle pieces where you creating in those different dimensions. And I was sometimes wondering myself, because I'm connected to many races, and my gift is the light language of the different races and speaking all of them. And but some I feel more of a connection, like you said. Oh, I don't feel as much connection to Pleiadians, and I've got something similar. I love the frequency, it's beautiful, but my connection, even though my last lifetime was on Arcturus, my strongest connections with Lyran avian race, which are like, they look a bit like angels, and there's not many people actually talking about them, and with the Syrians. And I think one of the reasons for that is like what you're saying makes complete sense, because when I was taken from Arcturus to here, and my last incarnation was quite young, I wasn't a mature Arcturian. Whereas on Lyra, I've had like a full span. I was a healer then I was almost like I was lecturing at university how to heal. So I was a teacher. And funny enough, some of my students actually came to me, and I've reconnected with them in this lifetime, which is it's mind-blowing. But I feel like perhaps there is some merit where we feel more of a connection and familiarity with those races where we have gone more of an evolution journey. Would that ring a bell? Is that the case?
Yes, totally, because like, to me, it all comes to the information that is part of our oversoul network, and the information that is there, it's only it continues being amplified and shifted because of the projections in certain realities. So it's like if we've reached mastery in when star race, it's like the information about, for me, like the information on Arcturus and Sirius where I reached mastery is huge. It's like, it's so vast, it's so broad. So it's like, it's very easy for me to connect with that, and to connect also with civilizations on Earth that, where I was that, or when I was a human, connecting with them and so on. So it's like, it's more vivid in my visions and so on. It's like, it's instant. If I need to connect there, bam, I'm there. It's like the flow of information, because the flow of information is like massive in the oversoul network. But if I connect to, for example, Andromeda or Pleiades, or like where my soul is actually less there, but it's at the moment, it's very different frequency. It's more like active, and it's less this vastness. But then I also connect with many frequencies where I don't project, where I haven't projected. So like, and that's yet another way of feeling the information. So like, for me, it's really like the way I feel the information gives me information of my own journey. And also because I ask my oversoul network, like when I connect to Isis or Hathor or Green Tara or, Ascended Masters, Jesus or Babaji and so on, our dragon frequency is like, why do I get such precise channeling and information and teachings from them? And it's just like, because you are sitting at the council together. It's not because you are projecting. So it's like, so that's more like receiving teachings in these lifetimes, but also in that realm. It's like my oversoul network is projecting in the quantum in a space that has no name. A bit like, if it was to be a galactic federation, it's not a planet, it's just a space that has the name Galactic Federation. Well, I'm not a Galactic Federation member at all, but it's like I sit with another council, and this other council has all of these frequencies co-creating together. And as I see myself, I sit with them as just one of them, and I just happen to have a projection here. Some of them also have projections, but not all of them. So it's fascinating to be able to observe this architecture of life. I don't know how else to call it.
You know what? I have never thought about it this way, but as you're talking, everything starts making sense. It's almost like on an energetic level, I kind of know, because for me, what happens is, for example, where I've had more of a, let's say, prominent lifetime, I find when I channel light language, I find it easy to translate. So for example, Arcturian, I always know what I'm saying. And I can translate it like I can translate between Polish and English. There's no problem for me. Whereas same with Lyran Avian and with Syrian, I always know what I say. With other languages, because some light languages have been given to me not because I was a member of a race, because I had an incarnation there. Some were given to me because just to activate others, just to share that frequency with the world. And these I find more difficult to translate. So I get the gist of what I'm doing. So it's not like, that I have no clue what it is, but it's not like precise. So I totally get what you're saying. I'm not visual like you, I'm more auditory, but I feel like it makes sense where we playing on all these different levels, and it just feels like from a human perspective, oh, we're just, trans-channeling or channeling, we're just bringing those frequencies down to earth. But in fact, we are also simultaneously on all these different embodiments of our soul and all these different incarnations, which is mind-blowing.
Yes, it's mind-blowing. And for me, one of the biggest turning points in my journey is to realize that it's within our atoms that this process is actually unlocked. It's in our physical body. It's not coming from an experience that's outside of ourselves. So to start with, when I started trance-channeling, I was sweating a lot. And I thought that, it's going to be the case. But after a couple of months, it ended. Now I just feel heat, but that's over, because like this frequency that actually I unlocked within myself, I felt like first, it's coming from outside, but actually it's both. It's what activates within me. It's what's amplifying the sensation of also getting bigger. It's because within the quantum space, within the atom, within our electron, we have all the information of the oversoul network. So it's in our physical blueprint. So more than ever now, it's like, now I eat only basically fruits and raw foods, because I want to unlock all the potential that's residing within myself to be able to reach electroecstatic bliss state. So I can be literally in this ecstatic trance state all the time, but at such a sustained level that I can transmit frequencies without doing anything. I can just receive information just effortlessly, like reach level of basically mastery. So like for me, that's a huge turning point in understanding that I take a lot of my students, especially VIP private people, into themselves. And that's so much faster, and that's so much more grounded, and that's so much easier for them to embody what they receive. Because before it was always like, let's go in the quantum or there or there or there. And it's like you go inside, and even you go in the earth, like in your blueprint in the earth, and then you unlock it. And all of a sudden, there are less waves of oscillations or less questioning, because it's more, it's who I am, rather than I need another being to make myself feel better, or feel complete, or feel that, I'm psychic, I'm intuitive, because I connect with these beings that are outside of myself. But if I realize that I'm actually already a master myself, and my oversoul network is already enlightened, I'm just coming back to that remembrance. Therefore, let's dig in and let's see and alchemize everything that makes me feel that I'm not worth it. Everything that's block is actually, it's only mental block, because our soul is there, right? Our soul's got this, our soul knows exactly what's going on. Our soul knows it's badass, infinite, divine love, and so on. So everything that prevents us from feeling that is everything that's preventing us from channeling and receiving this connection, because 90% of the time people want to have this connection to feel reassurance, to feel that the world is not gonna disappear into us being robots, that they're gonna find love, that they're gonna have abundance in their life. So people are looking for assurance, but the more we work on that ourselves as loving Earth, remembering that we chose Earth, that this is where we explore, then the more we can actually remove density from the field, and therefore we unlock the connection with our own soul. And channeling is always coming back eventually to channeling our own soul. It's like we don't need to want to channel this or that. Work on channeling your soul, and then the rest will fall into place. Then you will have more precision. So since I've been on this accelerated journey, my teachings have changed drastically, from wanting to just go out there all the time to find reassurance to actually wanting to be here more and more and more and more through embodied practices, and loving life. So I just wanted to share that, because I thought it'd be beneficial for people. Like the more we do the inner work, the more we become, one with unity consciousness, the more our CDs are open, like the CDs, the gift, the talents, because the CDs, like such as, the things that we do, some people say, I wish I had this gift. It's like the pursuit of gift is already coming from ego templates. So it's already anchored in density. So all masters that have developed very advanced studies, they all share the same thing, is that I never wanted them. I actually don't care about them. What I was looking for and what I practice is unity consciousness. It's being present with the self, sharing love, and being at service, like increasing my sense of serving others. And as that unfolds, then other things unfolds. And then maybe we can start, like feeling energy and talking to other beings and so on. And that's awesome. But So it's always coming back, okay, it's cool, you want to do this, then work on yourself and forget about it. And people are like, oh, I don't like it. But this is exactly how I change my teachings at the moment, tremendously out of this different angle,
Yeah, for me, it's always been a journey back to myself and back to my higher self. And I've got such a big belief that anybody can cultivate this connection with the higher self, connection with your own soul, because it's so, like I think what you said is so important, especially for star seeds, or earth seeds who are like Lemurian or Atlantean descendants. It's, oh my God, it's so cool. Let's bring those advanced technologies down to earth, and you can get a bit carried away. And then you realize, hang on, there's something bigger than that. And that's my own soul and oversoul, like you say, that's even bigger than that. And I've lived all these lifetimes. I don't have to, because sometimes it's also the language that fools us, because we feel like advanced beings of light. So, okay, they advanced, and we're a bit like, well, dumb. We're a bit like, behind. Or we say higher dimensions. Oh, so we're in the lower dimensions or lower density. So we're a bit like worse. But that's not the case. We've had all of the spectrum of these experiences. And I think sometimes we kind of don't even realize how many different experiences our souls had on this planet and outside this planet. And we think, oh, I'm an Arcturian starseed, which means I've had one lifetime on Arcturus and one on Earth. No, you've had thousands of lifetimes, probably more than you know, and you've got access to all of that through cultivating this. And what I really like what you're saying is also about our physical bodies, because they are not a burden to escape from. They're a gift to give our consciousness a form. And for me, that was a very big realization during a plant medicine ceremony where, my consciousness floated off and I was the one with everything. It was amazing. I was like, I want to go back to my body. I like my body. And I started really appreciating my body, because it allows me to do things that if you pure consciousness, you can do amazing stuff. But then also when you're a body, you can do beautiful, beautiful things. So I think we have to probably go through different rabbit holes to explore and find what our way is.
Yes, I love this, Riya. And sometimes I share this a lot, is that one day when I was, not working on anything like that, I was in my 20s and I was just walking down the street in Brussels, like just randomly. And then all of a sudden, vroom, I felt all of these masters around me. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on right now? And I continued walking and I started feeling like such a badass, I'm working with such a badass crew. It's so awesome and so on. And then I started connecting telepathically with them. And then one of them said, oh, you're one of us. And I was like, what? And it's like, yes, not only are you one of us, but you are much more powerful than us because you have the body. And then something switched in me. I was like, no, that's not possible. I'm fucked up. I'm like really like, I'm really not a good person. I'm really mean. I'm horrible and blah, blah, blah. So and instantly like this experience disappeared, and repeatedly for years they came with the same message, but I was so ingrained in my mind that I was a bad person. I hated myself, that it was impossible. That was a lie, until I had to go through a lot of very dense experiences to kind of want to flip onto the other side of like maybe loving myself a little bit, and then things started shifting. But no, I love about it because it's like literally they keep on telling me, remember, you're the boss, you're the most powerful one because you've got the body. You can pick up the phone, you can write that email, you can be seen on camera, people hear your voice, like, we can do the best we can, we can do the best we can, but we still don't have the body. It's like, yes, we can move objects and so on, but we don't want to create heart attacks going around doing things, so like, it's still in our ethereal form. So it's always like reminding people like you are actually such a master, you're such a master in your beautiful physical body, like just use it, use it to do awesome things.
Yeah, I think we've also been conditioned by different religious grids to hate our bodies in many ways, or to try to escape, from the body to the ether. And that's the templates that many souls follow, but our bodies are beautiful. But I want to go back and touch on what you said about trance-channeling and that you sweat, because this is something that both myself, or they used to sweat, and both myself and my husband, whenever we channel, we don't trance-channel. We're more like take our consciousness, communicate with our mind, and then relay it rather than trance-channeling. But we also have the same experience. Our body temperature always increases. And sometimes my husband's got a couple of sessions, and between the sessions, he just runs to the shower because he's so hot. And I feel the same. But when you trance-channel, apart from this heat in the body, how does it feel? What happens? If you can take us a little bit behind the scenes. Do you remember what you channel? Because another thing that we've noticed sometimes when we channel, not trans-channel, we just channel or relay messages, sometimes it's almost like it comes from a different part of the brain. And unless we record ourselves, we don't remember. So tell us a little bit about how the trans-channeling works for you, from someone who does it.
Yes. So like for me, I simply, so I do this little tuning with my clients or with the group I'm with, and like we connect and so on. And then I just like ask and request to be connected to Arcturian frequency. And then it's automatic. I feel this zoom like this. And I feel this shift inside of me, like boom, boom. It's like, and I just start speaking very fast, like language, Arcturian like language, to really anchor the frequency. And then I'm there. And what I feel is that it's like my human consciousness, my mind is zooming back. So I always feel it behind. So it's always present. So it's always watching, which is funny because at times I still have conversation when information comes and it's really out there, or it's really kind of, so they take me as an example all the time. So I've had to really learn to remove all sorts of, like feeling self-concerned because they make fun of me, but it's always in a loving way. And I don't really care too much about having my life story.
Arcturians love a good banter. They've got a sense of humor.
Yes, I know. And they're always poking people and really going for it. And I'm like, sometimes, wow, they're really going for it. Because sometimes I have some of my students, I can feel that we are sharing the same message over and over again, and the penny is still not dropping. And so at times I feel their frequency increasing. I feel, okay, they're going to go for it. And it's like they drill through their consciousness, but so hardcore that the students often they felt pushed back like this in their chair, and they're like speechless. They don't even know what's happening. And they actually, so my students kind of, it's not that they lose consciousness, but they kind of really don't understand what's happening. It's like they understand words being spoken, but it's like so intense that it's just like, oh, what's happening? But not all the time, like sometimes it's more gentle, but it's, I can feel that the frequency of Arcturus that I trance-channel will completely adapt to the person or the group receiving. I love translating for groups. That's one of my favorite. And it's like they can continuously perceive the shift happening in the field. So they know exactly if they kind of like we mellow down or if we really amplify. And I can see with the light language or the activation, sometimes I feel the power and I feel the heat and I'm like, oh, okay, so now it's coming. They're going to go for it. And next thing I know, it's like, boom, this huge, massive cosmic surgery activation is flowing through on this very kind of like super high frequency. And my human at the back is like, fuck, it's intense. They're going for it. Okay, so hopefully I'm not wearing the top because, I cannot wear tops with long sleeve anymore because, I could have like, sweat stain under my armpit. And my human is like, sometimes I forget. It's like, shit, I forgot to change top. Okay, so keep your arms down. Yes, but how to do like language with arms? I was like, relax. And then that's just a snippet, but it's funny. It's really funny. And something that I have observed as well. So that's from the beginning.
This episode is brought to you by the Quantum Club. The Quantum Club is a membership program designed to help you develop your spiritual abilities, such as connecting to your galactic soul family as guides, speaking light languages, channeling, transmitting and receiving light technology. Every week we hold live sessions and work with you energetically on a deeper level to unlock your divine intuitive gifts, to connect deeper than ever before with your higher self and galactic light beings. To find out more, head to bit.ly/galactic club. That's bit.ly/galactic club. See you there.
I straight away observed that they were sharing through pathways that I had already opened, meaning, like, for example, they would share a lot around terms of the physical body anatomy, because I've studied a lot anatomy through my search course and, like a teacher and so on. And they were also talking about yogic philosophy, which I love, and certain reference to certain ascended masters. It's always like things around things that have open pathway too, but they would so it's like they use this pathway, but then they open the information. So I receive a lot more information. So they draw lines, like a lot of, relationship between different information spectrum. And then straight away they told me, okay, so now you're going to learn about biology, microbiology, neuroscience, and you're going to learn about, like recently, it's been like all about ancient Egypt and ascended, and I'm like, oh, really? I just like, they say, yeah. But then I started reading about that, and straight away I could see that they were using that to bring very advanced content. So since knowing that, now I educate myself a lot more. So I educate myself about, quantum physics, neuroscience, because they use all of this information that's open to speak, because at times I would observe that they would be in the flow, there would be a suspension, and they say, we cannot find a pathway to share this through Cendrine. And I could see, like, so that for me, it's kind of, the neural pathway is not created, so the information doesn't travel. So it doesn't mean that all that they share, I know, because it's like, they use the information that's here and they bring it much higher level of frequency, right? So it's kind of like, I'm blown away all the time. I learn so much. And then I integrate that and I can go deeper in what I educate myself with. The next session is being bigger. Like for the last 2 years, I've become a completely different person. With completely different belief system and knowledge. And it's like, it's entirely different, like completely. And that's fascinating because it's never ending, I've got so many things on my to-do list, from them.
Yeah, so just to understand, so does it happen to you that basically you learning something through your channeling through the quantum, so you're learning information obviously straight from the Arcturians or other races, but at the same time they prompt you to do some, like, let's say normal research where you're reading books or stuff like that, so that they can give you even more. So it's almost like you're learning from that, quantum space as well as your conscious mind simultaneously, and they both work in unison.
I love this. Yes, it's totally like simultaneous learning. Because, for example, So I have this really interesting connection with ancient Egypt. I always have rejected it. And my mom was really into it. She was a very close friend with an Egyptologist, and she was talking constantly about it. And I hated it. I remember leaving the table and going to my bedroom because I did not want to receive any information about it. But yet I had still information coming to me. It was really interesting. And all the way to actually 6 months ago. And 6 months ago, I just started, being activated. Okay, so you're going to connect more. ISIS had been coming over the years, but I never really wanted as a human to go there. And I know why, because since I've reopened, I've barely read about it, literally barely read about it. But oh my God, like the journeys they've been taking me into, like these pathways of accelerated evolution, it's just, yes, it's like I know I work with all of these, Egyptian masters, and and it's all connecting to my Syrian, connections, and how I became ascended master there through also the earth realms, like connecting, simultaneously in both places. So I can see why that did not happen before, because I would not have been able to actually take it. It would have gone just like poof. But now I can actually take the time to, it's always in meditation, but it's like through my everyday, it's I need to rest, I need to recharge my batteries, I need to calm down my nervous system, I need to journey myself to receive more information and to read online. So it's like, it's not, like what we do is not work, right? It's a lifestyle. So every moment I wake up to the moment I sleep, it's all that I am, that's just this ever evolving consciousness, and be like, oh, okay, so now it's a new thing. What else?
Yeah, but this is really interesting. I think I love what you're sharing, because I think people assume that if you're channeling, all this information is just coming in and you don't need to engage your conscious mind because this knowledge is given. But from what you're saying is, if you do engage your conscious mind and your research skills and your learning, be able to integrate so much more and access so much more. And I remember, I'll give you an example. Like I a couple of years ago, I had this download from the Syrians, and it was something regarding the upcoming medical experiment, let's say, for the sake of YouTube. And that experiment hasn't started at that time yet, but it was about the current virus and what it's made of and how it's affecting us. And I know nothing about medicine, really. I'm not that way inclined, but they were explaining how it affects the brain and how people talk about transmissibility, people talk about different things, but they don't talk about the brain. And they have pointed me out to some research from like medical research from the times of Spanish flu and how 10 years after it was causing people different neurological diseases. And I'm like reading and it's all these downloads are integrating because I'm filling myself with like medical research. And I would never normally go online and read any medical research. It's just not something I'm interested. So it's really fascinating to find out how connecting with those advanced races almost like propels us on different pathways as humans.
I love this, Riya. That's such an amazing share that you give, because I can so relate. I've always hated science. I hated it in high school. I was useless. I was not interested into it. And as soon as I started working with the Arcturians and I started learning about, neuroscience and biology, microbiology and physics and quantum physics, I was like, this makes so much more sense. Like literally what I was learning at school was like some kind of prehistoric, outdated, like Newtonian paradigm anchored lack of knowledge. And now I've got all of this. So no, I love it so much. And I know very little. Like, honestly, I know very little because it's so vast, But it's interesting because I actually have more and more scientists coming in my field, or like people saying, oh, is your background in science? It's like, not at all. But for some reason, no, like also this kind of information I retain, like I studied law and political sciences and I studied languages. I studied so many things. But I've forgotten everything, Riya. Like my brain has literally deleted that. But yet now I read one thing about Hathor and I read one thing about micrology and one thing about quantum physics in a spectrum of maybe 5 days. Next thing I know, in my meditation, bam, 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 all of this connection comes. And it's like all this bigger picture. I was like, oh my God, this is just freaking amazing. And I just remember and I can just share it. And it's like it's in me. I can see the actual geometry of the learning, implemented in my DNA. It's kind of like, it's crazy. I love it. That's literally like multidimensional learning and, being quantum beings.
That's incredible. Cendrine, I would love to ask you one more question because I know you are very big on spiritual protection. And that's understandable because you operating this quantum field, channeling all these interesting beings. And I know that a lot of people there's two things. People often come to us when they like newly awakened starseeds and they have experienced some dark entities or dark energies because maybe, like when you're like immature consciousness, nothing to do with age, but like you're very curious and you go out there and it's not just beings of light out there, right? Or you experience some spiritual attacks from other people that can happen as well. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you protect yourself and how you teach people to protect themselves, because I feel like a lot of people will benefit from knowing that, especially those who are very like keen and curious and want to open up and maybe they hear you talk about all these amazing downloads that you're receiving. I was like, hey, I want a piece of the action too. But how can you do it in a safe way?
Yes, I love these questions because like some people, so it comes from, so there are two different narratives. Like one narrative is like, oh, I need protection because it's dangerous and I'm not safe, to go there. And then often the other narrative is like, oh no, like I'm such a high conscious being. I'm such an old soul. I don't need protection because when I just, reside in the light, I don't need protection. both of them are true and also completely erroneous because they are based on like low ego consciousness. When we are fully anchored in our sovereign self and we are experiencing this bliss state, we radiate such a huge amount of light that yes, like nothing can withstand that. Like we can pretty much do everything that we want, go everywhere and be protected. So yes, it's true that when we are reaching a level of mastery and advanced consciousness that we don't need protection. But as a matter of fact, there are very few beings on the planet that sustain that every single breath, because that's that, right? It's not because we have a transcendental experience and we start, connecting with this and that we are there. Maybe people and our beautiful dear listeners that we love so much happen to have certain oscillations happening in their field, like one day you feel very much there and then you don't know what happened, and then a week later it's like, fuck, I'm angry again, I'm worried again, or I have a lot of pain in my body, I've got all of these weird things happening in my life, or like I'm having challenges with my partner. So basically life happens and we find ourselves dropping frequency. And that's completely good. That's great, because we are always here to evolve and just to basically learn to maintain, this level of consciousness. And so I want to share my own experience that literally happened last week, because this is very humbling. And I share this to help people realize that we need protection for this reason, because I do the work that I do, right? I meditate and I do all the things. Yet for an entire week last week, I was feeling rage and anger and frustration like I hadn't felt in a very long time. And, I was trying to go there in my inner child in past life or try to alchemize it. And I realized, well, there's a lot happening in Wellington at the moment with the protest and so on. I was picking up on a lot of things, going into quantum, seeing these swans like all over the place. This frequency was just there all the time. And I started realizing that going out the door, I didn't feel like I have graded my entire neighborhood. So it's like a portal, right? But I started having these really weird events, a bit nasty events happening on the beach right down there. And that's what that gave me the hint that I needed. It's something that's not really, really going on there. Like, go back home. And I went back home and straight away I felt it. I felt this huge demon on my back. And I was like, oh, okay. No, I can see it, because I was so, I had stopped putting protection because I had been in such conscious high bliss state for such a long time over the last month that it sneaked through. It sneaked through the cracks of my frequency dropping down and down and down and down, me trying to pick it up without, being able to do it. So I came back home and straight away, clearing and so on. And I literally felt that from having graded my entire neighborhood, my home was just like this tiny pocket of light. So I was like, okay, so I went deep into meditation to clear again, to change again, and to put the protection back again. And I'm sharing this with the dear listener because it's important to regularly put protection in place, because first it gives us reassurance, but then secondly, it's also allow us to stay humble beings in our journey of evolution, and to say there's so many things I don't know, because there are always so many things I don't know. Even with the increase of consciousness that we are all experiencing at the moment, there's so much more, because it's the freaking infinite quantum out there. It's infinite. So there's an infinite amount of information that we don't know about. And that goes about ourselves and goes about the world and goes about all the, different level of frequencies that are out there. And now Earth is purging of the frequencies. So there's actually a revival. Like, it's not a revival, but they are exacerbated. I don't know if you felt that, but at the moment, demons and entities that are very exacerbated, they are very active, because they don't want to go, but they know they're going. So it's basically like, like kind of like a child, throwing a tantrum as strongly as it can until eventually the child is being removed, let's say, like, love and light, go away. So that's happening at the moment. So I always encourage you, place your protection continuously. And since I channeled a protection from the Andromedan, this is my go-to. And it's actually on my YouTube channel and also a podcast, so I might share it with you.
Link to it?
Yes, definitely. And it's like 8 layers. So we just go through this process, and it's magnificent because we finish with Fire of Dragons. So that's super cool. We connect with dragons, and it's so amazing. And literally, that's unbreakable. And I have been in some deep trance-channeling session when I feel interferences, like dark forces are going to come, and it's like instantly, it's like 8 Andromedan shield therapy activated, and like boom, 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 and it's like it's gone. Like we disappear completely from low forces. So that's extremely powerful. So I strongly
we're gonna link up to that, because it's a big subject. My husband wrote an article about it as well, because every being of light, every race have their own techniques. Like you mentioned, dragon fire. That's one of my favorites as well. But
I love it.
Syrians have amazing shielding available, but we'll link to your Andromedan 8-layer shielding there, because it's super important. And on that note, it's important to protect yourself and also discern. I think a lot of what you've mentioned, you knew that something felt off. And I think it also comes with experience, because when you know what your pure frequency feels like, or when you know, let's say, what Arcturian frequency feels like, or Andromedan frequency feels like, it's easier to pick up then that, hang on, this doesn't feel like any of my friends or support team. That feels a bit off.
Yes.
And once you can do it, you can remove it. But unfortunately, a lot of times when people are not familiar with the races of light yet, they sometimes open themselves up to many different beings, and they just latch on, and it's lack of knowledge.
Yes.
We've recently had someone who come up to us because they've experienced something attached to them in a group, like a plant medicine ceremony when people were purging, and they took someone else's trauma or darkness on them. So it's very, very important to protect themselves. So guys, check this video that Cendrine has recorded for you, and educate yourself on it. It's very important. And on the same note, it's also very important with interactions with other humans, because there's one thing protecting yourself, but people will say, oh, can I have a free reading, or can I have this? And then they open, you can have all these shields and defenses, but if you open your front door to a random person, then guess what's gonna happen?
I love this, Riya, because there's one more thing I would like to share. It's that the more we are in our body, the more protected we are. Because the more we are the light within our body, the more we occupy our body. So there's no room for anything else. So like all the people that do astral travel and so on, like 99% of the time, they are full of nasties, and I don't even know it. Because same with plant medicine, people leave their body. So what happens? Like, oh, great, look, there is a body available there, so I'm just going to go in that. So the more we are into practice of embodiment, and and we actually choose to stay here instead of wanting to escape, instead of wanting to have this like out of body experiences, the more we actually look at to traveling from within, using our body, using our atoms, using the unity consciousness that we are, the less we are prone to being squat and used by low entities as battery system. So it's always like, stay in your body, like it's yours, like keep it, it's your ultimate protection eventually. Yes.
Cendrine, to wrap up this conversation, what advice would you give to someone who perhaps is new to all of this, is listening and thinking, oh my goodness me, I really want to connect to the Arcturians, or I really want to connect to my soul family or to the Ascended Masters? What would you recommend? How would they start?
I love this, Riya, and I love it how I have to wrap it up in 2 minutes. It's like it's literally what I teach to people over many, many months. So let me just tune in. I would just say there are two dynamics that I would love people to embrace. It's like first, really the dynamic of work on yourself, on opening up your heart, because eventually intuition is the language of the soul. And so if you work on being more heart-centered person, on loving yourself unconditionally, on loving others as much as we can, working on loving everyone equally, the more the heart is going to open, the more the frequencies are going to change, and the more you're going to be able to connect with your own intuition from your own soul, but also beautiful beings of the light that work from the heart. So it's kind of like you create this pathway, this connection between you and them. So that's one dynamic, like work on really living from the heart and on opening up your heart, on functioning from the heart mostly. And then the other thing is that be curious, go out there, read. Like I know that you, Riya, as well as myself, we share a lot on the subject. So allow it to be excitable to you. And if there is something that excites you more, it's that just maybe have a session, you can have a session with me, a session with you, or a session with someone else, like look at how you resonate with the language that these people speak, if it makes you empowered and if it makes you feel like more of a sovereign, vibrant being, then it shows that it's like somebody is really genuinely working from the heart into helping you and come into your own sovereignty rather than trying to create hooks. So if you're curious, like, yes, go online, there are all of these tests out there that you can do, like which star system I'm from. And it's like, we keep it playful. And again, it's like having this beautiful dance with impatience. I really want to go now. I want to go to know everything. It's like, how can we allow this impatience to actually be more of a witness of our readiness to open our heart, rather than of something that is going to make us feel less than worthy of receiving this information, which often happens. Is like, oh, if I can communicate with them, if they don't come with me, it means that I have blocks, I'm not good enough, and so on. No, not at all. Not at all. So just work with your impatience into great. It shows that it's happening to me and it's just going to happen. It's just, it's just a matter of time. And we don't know. It can be 1 day, 1 week, 1 year. Who knows, So just continue on your journey of following your highest excitement and try different things because it's extremely valuable. Yes.
Absolutely. It's about a journey just as much as about the destination. And everything we're experiencing in this physical reality and the metaphysical world is all evolution for our souls. So thank you for bringing this beautiful perspective, Cendrine, for someone who's so connected and, channeling and hanging out with these galactic beings all the time. You also bring this amazing groundedness, which is beautiful. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. So thank you so much for being our guests, and we will link to all of your places where our listeners and people who are watching this video can find you. This was Cendrine Sauvenier. Thank you so much for being our guest on the Architects of Destiny podcast.
Oh, thank you, Riya. I'm so happy, so grateful. Thank you for having me. I had such a fantastic time talking to you. Like, we talked for hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast. Be sure to subscribe and we will see you on the next episode.